Okay, just before I drop into doing a tutorial on how to make yourself a salt impregnated paper filter for your cloth face mask, I thought I'd better reiterate how important it is to wash your hands with soap. Soap is very good at dissolving the lipid membrane that surrounds a virus, which is basically the protective coat of the virus, and without that, his history, it can't do anything. So regularly washing your hands with soap whenever you come in from outside or whenever you're about to go outside is a very good idea. It's probably better than most of the hand sanitizers, that the greedy stockpilers have got in their house. So go grab the soap while it's still on the shelves. Yeah, so just wanted to say that. My hands have been thoroughly sanitized before this video. You'll see me touching my face mask a lot, which is one of the concerns people have about mask wearing. But if your hands are thoroughly clean, that is a hell of a lot less of an issue than breathing out aerosols of potentially contagious virus. So this is why we think it's a really good idea to make yourself a face mask and to put a saline filter inside it. One thing in the tutorial is about to follow that I didn't mention is the same as every good recipe. It should have started with pour yourself a drink, beer, wine, gin and tonic. Tonic water, very good for clearing this virus. So I'm told quinine, yet again, appears to be the wonder medication. So there is an absolute obligation upon all you folk out there to have a lot of stiff gin and tonic. Well, not stiff, actually, weak gin and tonics. You know, a lot of tonic, easy on the gin. Anyway, on with the video. Hello. I thought I'd do a video on how to make a salt impregnated paper filter for your face mask, and whilst I was doing it, explain just why the hell I'm doing that. And the reason, so first of all, you want 29 grams, yeah, about 29 grams, 30 grams, whatever, of absolutely normal, bog standard table salt. So we're going to do that, and this is approximate chemistry, so that's about 30 grams in that. That'll do. And the reason we're going to do this is because I read an article in the very well respected scientific journal Nature, which clearly described how a paper filter soaked in a saturated salt solution has a rather useful effect of filtering out and denaturing influenza viruses, which are passed through it at the same pressure as breath breathes through. So they were very deliberately trying to show that a salt impregnated paper filter in a surgical mask was 100% effective at removing influenza viruses that were blown through it into a cage of mice. Not so nice, but anyway, you've got to test on something, or at least your virologists think you do. So the mice that were in a cage that had a paper filter that they blew virus through without the salt, they all died. The ones with the salt in the paper filter, they all survived. None of them got the virus that they were blowing through this filter. And the reason for that, when they looked at it on an electron microscope, is that as the virus was being passed through the paper filter, it liquidized the salt destroyed the virus and denatured it, and then they later on tested all the viruses that were caught in the paper filter without the salt, and they grew them. They were all capable of being grown. All the ones that were caught in the paper filter with the salt in were dead. They were denatured, they couldn't grow. Does all that make sense then now? Now you know why I'm putting a paper filter inside my cloth mask. Because two reasons. One, in the hope that if I was to breathe in some virus particles, they would denature on the way in and I wouldn't get the coronavirus. But far more importantly, when I exhale, all the aerosol that comes out of me is filtered both by the cloth mask, which stops the aerosol hitting the atmosphere and stops me, should I have any virus, infecting other people, and with the salt filter, I will not infect any other people with my breath out should I have virus. So if everybody was to do this, the problem would be finished in 2 weeks. Done. nobody's breathing virus, nobody's contaminating. There are some other factors. Anyway, so that's 29 grams of salt in your average saucepan, and this is 100 millilitres of tap water. We add 100 millilitres of tap water to the 29 grams of salt and put it on the stove to warm it up. What you don't want to do is you don't want to boil it. This is just to warm it. If you boil it, it evaporates and you have to add more water. But all you're doing really is making a saturated salt solution. So we put it on to warm it, give it a little bit of a stir, and we wait until all of that is dissolved. You'll probably find that it doesn't quite dissolve, in which case you need to add a little bit more water and stir it until you get a clear solution. And then we'll move on to the next bit. So as this has happened to me every time, it's probably going to happen to you. We've got a solution there. The salt doesn't look like it's going to dissolve. So all we do at this point is we just add a little bit more water, a little bit at a time until all the salt dissolves. I'll come back to you in a moment with that. Okay, so there we go. Added a little bit more water, and now we've got pretty much all the salt dissolved. To be honest, as long as you've got a saturated solution, it doesn't really matter if there's a tiny few grains of salt left. You've basically, let's get this so you can actually see my face and you're not talking to a saucepan. Hello, that's better. So yeah, as long as you've got a reasonable amount of salt dissolved into it, nearly all of it, that's fine. A couple of specks of salt, well, it's only salt, isn't it? So that's the beauty of this. There's nothing complicated about it at all. So then we go on to my next bit, which is salt impregnating. If I can get it set up so you can see it. There you go. Salt impregnating a set of tissues. Here you go. Put a tissue on a suitable surface. I use a Tupperware. Get a spoonful of salt water, your fresh saline solution, and just drip it on until it makes a nice, you've got a nice wet layer. So this basically now is soaked in a saline solution on one layer. You then get another tissue, stick that on top, dun, 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 and gradually build up, adding a little bit more where you need it. So the idea is to get these fibres, because this is also an important part of it, the mesh of fibres from the tissue paper, the paper, the wood fibres in the tissue, you want them to interlock to make a mesh, which means that for the virus to get through it, it has to travel through a tunnel, a labyrinth of fibres that are now coated with salt grains, because when this dries, all those salt grains will branch out onto the sides of the paper fibres, creating like barbed wire for viruses. And if the virus bangs into that, it will stick to it and have its guts ripped out, basically, which is a good thing if you want to denature a virus. Is the basic idea of what's going on here. And also just all the fibres and things will also stick to the virus as well. And between that and the cloth mask with 2 layers of t-shirt material that we've been making and giving away free in Bali, you have quite an effective means of stopping the spread of this thing if everybody was to get on board. Now there are implications, and the reason why you've heard all this, oh, don't wear a mask, is because you have to look after your mask. You have to have 2 masks, one to wear and one to sterilise. The best way to sterilise a cloth mask is to boil it. Stick in a pan of boiling water. If you've got a pressure cooker, 15 minutes of high pressure steam is an autoclave. That's what they use for sterilising things in operating theatres and that kind of thing, ideally. But, you know, we don't live in a perfect world. Anyway, there you go. So boiling it for 15 minutes in a pan of boiling water will give you a bloody good clean of your cloth mask, which is why it's so effective. And this you need to keep changing. The best thing to do with this is dry it in the sunshine, which is a lot easier in Bali than it might be in the UK. In the UK, you can pop it in the oven on a really low oven. The idea is to just wait until you've got a nice crisp, totally dry paper filter that you then slide inside your mask, which I shall go and get one I prepared earlier to show you. Good Blue Peter stuff. Grew up watching How to Make Shit. So here's my my drying rack. This was a picture frame and a bit of string. There you go. So I just laid that. Oh, look, it's glowing magically, magical glowiness. So yeah, and I just leave that in the sunshine until they're crispy, and coated with salt. And then I'll get one that I made and show you the mask that it works in. Okay, so here's your sun-dried, salinated tissue paper filter, 3 tissue papers, dried out in the sun. See, it's fairly stiff now. That's all the salt on all the coating all the fibres. Here's your cloth face mask, which has a pouch, made with a pouch inside. I can put a link onto the design for these, but they're pretty straightforward. And you basically just open it up. I'll tilt this so you can have a look. Is that there? Yeah. So what's going on? Maybe you need a bit more light on that. There we go. So all I do is just fold it a bit like that. Stick it in the end. Turn it around. Fold it in, open it out, and there you have the saline coated tissue paper filter inside your mask. And that is a disposable element. You need to make a stack of those. From one pot of that you can make about, I don't know, eight of the masks. And then rub it on your face. And this is made out of t-shirt material, a double layer obviously t-shirt material. The research we did suggested that this was a pretty good compromise. There are slightly better materials, but they're less comfortable to wear, and they don't make as good a seal. So having a bit of a stretch in it allows you to have a really good seal. And now whenever I breathe out, anything I'm breathing out has the aerosol removed, and the main means of transmission is the inhale of aerosol containing virus particles. You've eliminated that anyway, even without the salt filter. But with the paper and salt filter, you are denaturing any viruses that's getting caught in that filter. Obviously, the cloth mask, you need 2. You need 1 to wear and 1 to wash and dry. We've just been washing it by boiling it in water for 15 minutes. And then hanging it out in the sun to dry, and then ironing the hell out of it while it's still a little bit damp, because then you have the steam effect as well, which helps to denaturize everything. I'm not guaranteeing that this will get you 100% safety, but it's a hell of a lot better than no mask. And as I say, I'm not producing an aerosol for other people to breathe, and I am denaturing anything that I breathe in that comes through that paper filter. Obviously, the tighter you fit, the better. It's really easy to breathe through, and you are breathing salt air, sea air, so it's got to be good for you, isn't it? Anyway, that's the best I can do. Good luck, have a happy apocalypse, and I'll see you in the Survivors Lounge. Namaste.